Analytics and AI office hours. So this is a new experiment. We're starting to expand the Greensboro. Well, now I'm calling it the North Carolina Triad AI Meetup. But I've got a ton of people joining that meetup. There's over 100 and I think 30 people at this point, but most of them aren't in Greensboro. So I thought let's try a live stream. So our guest today, Alejandro, I met when I was down in Playa del Carmen. So it's a cold, overcast day here in Greensboro, North Carolina. I bet it's beautiful where you're at right now.
I mean, I could definitely say it's sunny, but it's cold. So we're also experiencing this cold front that
Oh,
the
okay.
whole East Coast is getting. But it's like actually cold. Like I've people that have been living here for the past 20 years say like this is the coldest winter they've ever experienced. So
Ooh, gotcha. Oh, hold on. Let me pull Israel off until the Q&A. All right. Sorry. I haven't been on Riverside in a while, so the mechanisms, they've shifted everything around, so it's a little bit awkward. But Alejandro, so why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself? Because I was super impressed when I met you when I was down there. I mean, you're up to some really interesting work.
sure. So let me give you just a quick background for everyone hearing this talk that has no idea who I am. My name is Alejandro. I was born and raised in Mexico, but spent about 15 years in Germany. So I went to study to Germany. Had like this type of say, movie type of story where I went over there as an au pair. So I was babysitting kids in Germany while I was learning the language and applied to university over there and ended up studying mechanical engineering in one of the best universities in Germany. So I did my bachelor, master's. I then went on and did an MBA in France. And yeah, and started working on a lot of different things. First of all, I was very into the automotive industry as an engineer in Germany. You can imagine everything, yeah, everything was about cars essentially, right? And so I had internships at Audi or BMW, did my bachelor's and master thesis over there and stuff like that. And one of my dreams was working in motorsports, working in Formula One. But then at some point during my studies, things shifted and I started getting more into, let's say, programming. I did a lot of maths and modeling and simulation during my studies. And so at that point, it was the point when neural networks were starting to blow up. It was just like the very
Okay.
first things
So you've
about
been
neural
into
networks.
AI when AI wasn't
Yeah,
cool like it is now.
yeah, for sure. Like I've been working in AI for the past 8 years. I was doing AI before I knew it was AI. Like I just thought it was engineering. And at some point
Yeah.
later on, I was like, oh, actually the methods that I was using are actually, that was AI or machine learning, right? So I
Yeah.
say I was a machine learning engineer because like now AI is just like a broader topic, like a broader, yeah, it's just like a global topic. Then you have, or data science, AI, machine learning, right? And so I was very much into, so yeah, so machine learning, AI, going deep into neural networks when TensorFlow just came out. So it was like about 8 years ago. And that's when I knew like, oh shit, like this is the thing that I want to do. Like this is
Yeah.
amazing. I'm just gonna live cars out and just focus on this. I remember when I was applying for jobs, and like I said, like this was about 8 years ago. My wife was asking me like, hey, what do you want to do? And I was like, I was doing Kaggle. So if anyone hearing this knows about Kaggle, which is like a data science competition
Mhm.
platform. Um, oh, wow. Is my internet good?
It seems like it's lagging a little bit. I can still hear your voice.
I think so.
Um, uh-oh. Let's see. I hope it's not. You all right?
Yeah, I just saw that we had some problems with the internet. But now,
Oh no.
now it appears to be fine again, right?
You're a little bit blurry, but I can hear your voice fine, so that's kind of what matters.
Okay.
So yeah, you can
Well,
just
let's
keep talking.
continue with this. So I was
Yeah.
doing, I was doing this data science competitions, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. Like, this is definitely what I want to do, like, for the rest of my life. Or that is what I thought, and I started doing data science, machine learning. I was fortunate enough to get a job into data science, working as a consultant in Germany at IBM, so a big company. Did a lot of projects for big name companies, you know, like
Yeah.
Audi, Mercedes-Benz, and stuff like that. And then at some point, transition into other data science roles in other companies, then transition then later on after the pandemic. I was one of this layoff stories, got laid off during the pandemic and then started freelancing, and that was kind of like one of the best things that happened to me, because after freelancing,
Good.
I got to experience a lot of different jobs and a lot of different opportunities. One of them was that I started working on a project for a Formula One team, which was amazing. That's kind of like at the time where we met.
Right.
I was doing exactly that. And and so I transitioned essentially from working just like in AI and machine learning, more into, let's say, a full stack software development role where I develop full stack applications, essentially everything around the back end, the front end, but also like the integrations with AI systems. And and so that was up until last year. Now I say like starting this year, 2026, I'm done being a freelancer, and I'm working on my own thing. Trying to start a company from scratch, and that's where we're at.
That's awesome. All right. So now that we've given you an intro, let's kind of walk through the agenda. So I've got Parker Scheidt, he was a student of mine at High Point University last semester. I've since hired him as an intern. So I kind of wanted to bring him on, get some advice from you on what's your advice for learning AI for college students, and also how can you start to think through your career if you could go back in time, because AI feels like it's changed everything. Then after that, this literally just happened, 30 minutes to an hour ago. Parker is going to be interviewing for a job, for I think an internship at Microsoft. So I would love to do maybe a mock interview question, or maybe do a panel discussion where I can bring on the other guests, because we've got Jeff Stein, who's the CFO, and then Israel Kloss, who's another data scientist. So we can kind of do an impromptu kind of almost like a panel discussion around let's get Parker prepped for this interview. Then we can jump into just an overall open Q&A session. So let's go ahead and pull in Parker, and we can have a conversation around, hold on, let's get the layout changed. So Parker, literally we just talked like an hour ago, and you were like, oh, I got to leave early, I got to prep for this interview. So what's going on there? We can start there, and then we can circle back to the kind of the questions for Alejandro.
Yeah, for sure. So super excited. I just got an email earlier today that I got accepted into the interview process for this internship at Microsoft headquarters in Redmond, Washington. So
Congrats.
Thank you. Super excited. And my interview's tomorrow. So I definitely need to do some prep, because it's very back-to-backs, super quick. And
Parker, what role is it?
A project controls intern role. So I can read out the description for you really quick if you want to give me a second to pull it up. But it's essentially, here we go.
So Alejandro, what I liked about Parker is that he's both a data science major and then a sales minor. I got that right, Parker, right?
I am a business analytics major with a minor in data science.
Okay. Well, I thought you were doing something with sales. Did you drop that?
I did, yes.
Okay. So this is changing from last semester to this semester. But Alejandro, I thought you would be a great guest to kind of give him some advice on if you were in his position. So Parker's a junior at HPU, getting the degree you just laid out. What would be your advice on how he should learn AI from that position?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing because, the way I used to learn AI is going to be completely different than the way you would need to learn it. And to be quite honest, I still don't know what I would completely do in your position because things have just changed so much, even in the past 2-3 months. My work, for example, my work just changed completely, but just literally day and night about 2-3 months ago, by the release of the latest models of Anthropic. And so even before that, I would give you another advice. Now it's a different advice. And now what advice would actually be helpful for you for the next coming years? To be honest, I don't know. We will need to see. But I think the most important thing is that people learn how to use AI as a tool to expand their knowledge and not as a tool to solve their problems. I think that's the most important thing, right? And that's also one of the biggest leverages that I have gotten working with AI in the way I use it as a software developer. It's not, I don't tell the AI, build me this or build me that. Just I ask it hey, let's think this through. What is going to be the best possible architecture for working with this? I have this option. What do you think about it? And we iterate on different things. Where I ask him, hey, do me a research about this library, this open source project. Tell me how to think, what decisions did they made, why these decisions were made, and how to think about it, how to reason about it, right? And so once the AI starts reasoning or trying to understand or decipher all the information that you're asking him to, and once you try to digest everything, it's going to be a win-win in the sense that the AI is going to have way more context of things that you want to do, and you're also going to be understanding way more of the problem that you have in hand. Because one of the biggest things that I see a lot is people just trying to one-shot prompt something and add but make no mistakes at the end and stuff like that, and that does not work. That usually does not work for something that is worth solving, for a problem that is worth solving. And so I would guess my advice for you is to just use it to expand your, or just to feel your curiosity, right? And so just use it to learn as a personal tutor, as a tool for understanding, more as a tool for solving.
Right. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's pretty easy to slip into a habit of having it do it for you, especially in school and everything. Although it is very important that you don't do that, and I sometimes catch myself, doing that, and then I'm like, all right, wait, let me use this in a way where it still makes me think and actually be able to use my brain as it should be. So I guess kind of a little follow-up question. I know you don't really have any information about this internship or maybe even Microsoft in general, but a little bit more on the data science side. So I'm taking some data science classes right now, and it's obviously AI can write code, so can I. Where do you find the line is of what should AI help and do for you in writing code and then analyzing it, and then what should I be able to do with all of that? If you could give me a little bit more of a detailed answer.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I believe nowadays is, I'm going to say it this way, code has become a commodity. So code is just water, right? You can just get water, you can just get code. It doesn't matter if you get this bottle or that bottle. It doesn't really matter if you get your code from Anthropic, if you get it from OpenAI or whatever. Like code, in that sense, it's a commodity. But how you package it and how, let's say, I don't know, maybe how many nutrients it's gonna have. Like water does make a difference. Like you can have like some water that has some minerals, some other water that does distilled water, and some other water that's like that's poisonous and you don't see, right? And so, but in the end, it's a commodity, but it does have some differences. And I think the differences are like the way you think about how you structure your problems and your instructions to the AI. Why I say this? Because just literally, it was about last week. I was making this one experiment with AI, and maybe this is going to be like a very interesting and funny or cool use case for anyone who wants to do something like this. I went to LinkedIn because I'm starting to write more on LinkedIn. And but I thought, you know what? I want to have like a better outline and better structure for my post, right? So I usually write everything, but it's just like in my poor English with bad sentence structures and all of this type of thing, right? And so what I did is just I went to a creator that I follow, scrolled down, got his latest year of posts, that was like 250 posts, extracted that information, just like the text, the amount of engagement, like the amount of likes, comments, when was the post at, and extracted it into like a data set, just like all that information. And then this is the crazy part, is that I started using AI to do the work that it would have taken me probably a week to do what the AI did in about 10 minutes. Right. So I went in and I told him like, hey, think as a data scientist, I want to create a pipeline where I have, say, the data augmentation, okay, not just have the text, but actually, I don't know, the simple things. Count the number of words, count the number of words in the first sentence, the hook, count how many emojis are in the whole text and stuff like that. Just like thinking about the problem as a data scientist, and just explaining the AI what I want to achieve. Okay, I want to get all the best practices that this guy is making, get the outliers of the posts, the ones that are doing not so good, the ones that are doing good, find the patterns that have a correlation to getting a good post versus a bad post, so that I can learn from it and that I can adjust my writing style, or say the way I write the hook, the way I engage with the audience and stuff like that. And so essentially what it did is just created like a data science pipeline after my instructions, because this is what I used to do for a living, right? And like I said, like it would have taken me probably a week just to get the data clean, get all the data augmented, get all the different first visualizations and patterns, and just like trying to extract all of these things, created all the different plots, and then it was like, it wasn't me, just like I looked at them briefly, and this is also like the interesting thing. It's like I looked at them, started like seeing some interesting details, but then I put them all into a report, gave it also to AI. This is the report, this is the analysis, now I want to get the insights out of it. And build me a blueprint, a guideline on how to write, like what's working for this thing. Now, why I say all of this is because, like I said, like code has just become a commodity. Like code, in the sense, like I didn't write this code, right? But I could see the analysis into, I could see the way it's structured, like the different processes, the data pipeline. And that's where my experience as a data scientist came in, where I was telling me also like the different patterns that I was looking for, which that was like super valuable. Now, and this is where I think like code, like I wouldn't necessarily advise you, hey, you need to learn how to code like perfectly, because like I do think like that's not going to be a thing in the future. Like I truly believe code is not going to be like, we're never going to write code by hand again, ever, like humans. That's just something we don't need to do again. But we do have to think about how to structure the system, how to think, like architectonically, you have to think of how to structure your data pipeline on what things to do and what patterns are you looking for. Because AI is going to spit you something out, but it may be not what you wanted, and that's where you should know how to ask for the right, how to prompt the AI for the right answer.
Wait, so can I chime in and see if I'm like understanding this, but maybe rephrasing it in a different way? So Alejandro, essentially your advice is use AI to scale your learning and then figure out what problems you're interested in solving, and then what kind of aspects of business or engineering or whatever field you're in you find inherently interesting.
Yes, that's a good way to think about it. Like, because essentially, I'm going to say it this way, like thinking about problems and how to solve the problems is going to be the key differentiator of good engineers now and in the future. Now, on some of these things, like it's going to be a hard thing to do because some of these things do require expertise and do require experience in something, right? And it's going to be very hard for people to gain experience if they don't have a job, but they're not going to have a job if they don't have experience, right? And so it's
right.
Like a chicken egg problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, you should definitely find the thing that you're interested in, because if you find the thing that you're interested in, then you're going to have an edge against other people, right? And so it can be solving whatever type of problems, whatever topic, and everything. So essentially, yeah, what you said is it's about finding the right problem set for your skill set and your interest.
Yeah. Or something, I mean, this sounds like something that would go on like a live, laugh, love, piece of furniture on your wall or something that your mom might have. But it's like, use AI to find your curiosity or chase your curiosity.
Yeah.
Because I think it's so much better being pulled into a topic because you just find it so interesting, as opposed to, I have to psych myself up to do this work that I don't want to do. The difference long term of how those two people are going to show up to their job is going to be, as time goes on, it's going to widen more and more, because the person that's just interested in what they're doing they're going to pay attention to more. They're going to spend some extra time. They might go a level deeper than what the other person would. All right, so Parker, can you go ahead and pull up the job description if you want, or if you're comfortable doing it, and then I can pull Israel and Jeff Stein on, and let's have we can just kind of have like a panel discussion around Israel. What's going on, man?
See me?
I can, yeah.
There you are.
All right, so let me introduce the other two guests. So Israel Kloss. So correct me if I'm wrong. You have a really strong data science background. Came up from Boston, moved down to Greensboro. The way we met was through the AI meetup. Actually, no, you reached out to me, and then I invited you to the meetup. That was the first place that we hung out.
Yeah.
But you're currently developing an AI company called Blue Chimp that works with sales and intent data. So it helps you identify who's looking at your website, so you can go and strategically reach out to the person that might actually make the purchase. And then Jeff Stein, I recently met. Jeff, how long have we known each other? 3 weeks at this point? So
Maybe a month.
yeah. So I met Jeff through the Chamber of Commerce puts on a program called Launch Lab. He went through kind of the business incubator program. I met him at Pitch Day. He's building out a business around selling fractional controller and CFO services, and we got to talking, and he's very interested in AI. So Alejandro, we'll jump into the kind of the Microsoft interview prep, but then afterwards I would love to get kind of your advice, Alejandro, on how Jeff, as someone who's got, Jeff, you're what, 15, 20 years into your career?
Yeah, well, actually, I've been doing accounting and finance-oriented stuff now for about 17 years. It's crazy how time has flown, and honestly, the technological innovation that has sort of come about through adoption of AI in everything has just been fascinating, because it's really the technology has sort of democratized a lot of aspects of the profession, where maybe if you weren't strong in a certain area like data analytics, well, shoot, you can feed something into an LLM and it'll spit out an analytic. Now, I think the real thing about that is, but you still need to understand if it's right. And so I think, Alejandro, what you said resonated with me about the code aspects of things is, you can maybe get 80-90% of the way there by leveraging an LLM to sort of produce the code for you. But if you don't actually know what the code is, how it works, or how to leverage it to fine tune it to really produce the result that you're looking for, that's a problem. And so I think that's the same thing in the accounting profession is, hell, I literally yesterday had to create a website. I did it in 2 hours. I have no coding experience whatsoever. I used to work at a digital design firm that's what they did, built high-end websites for like $1 million+ dollars. I created a relatively decent website in 2 hours using Lovable and Claude. Unbelievable.
That's amazing. Wow. All right, cool. So, well, Jeff, we'll come back to that once, Parker, do you have that job posting pulled up? Also, Jeff, relevant for the conversation we're going to have with Parker, you have hired people, right?
Oh yeah, I've been a hiring manager. I started, managing folks about 5, 6, maybe 7 years ago at this point. So definitely, I even was, when I was at Sikorsky Aircraft Corporation, I was actually one of the people that would go on campus and interview interns and identify whether or not there's the potential to bring them on to Sikorsky for an internship. I also worked with folks that we brought on campus or brought into the organization in the first 2 years with our early career development program. So I can probably give you some tips and tricks, but what I found is as far as interview prep goes, again, AI is a fantastic tool that you can use. You feed the job description in, you identify what they're looking for, it'll sort of glean the most important talking points, and then if you've ever sort of heard of the STAR method of interviewing, I would, if you haven't, Google that.
Yeah.
That'll actually prep you to be able to identify situations where you have experience that's relevant to what they're looking for. So those are 2 things I'd draw up the right way.
Cool. All right, Parker, can you go ahead and share your screen? I'm curious to see what this job you're about to interview for looks like. I mean, what might actually be, maybe this is too meta, but we could literally copy and paste it into ChatGPT and say, help me prepare for this interview.
Yeah, I definitely could do that. So this is what we have here, project controls intern, and so it's based on real estate and construction, and you can see down here responsibilities. So I'm going to be using lots of Excel and Power BI to manage the projects, and then taking all the data and kind of using those applications and maybe something else as well to then create visualizations and then get some KPIs from that as well. And so if you guys are reading through here, you can see obviously at Microsoft it's going to be a lot of Microsoft applications, Excel and Power BI being 2 main ones. So yeah, this is what we got here. Now you can go ahead and copy and paste this into ChatGPT and see what it tells me here. And now Jeff, I have heard of the STAR method. We do like to use that here at High Point University. Um, Now, let me see. Are you able to? Is it only sharing my the Microsoft screen?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Probably, yeah. It's probably locked on that one.
I
No.
mean, one one of the things one of the things that I would suggest you to do is do you have like a paid version of any AI? It doesn't matter which one.
Yeah, actually, I'm doing a 3 month trial with the ChatGPT.
All right, awesome. Because using the let's say the biggest models do have like a very it makes a very big difference if you're using them, let's say, in an interactive mode, in the sense that you can, for example, what I would do in your case, like, and I haven't done this, and I'm just thinking out loud right now, but what I would do in your case is paste the job description as you have it, right? And you probably have somewhere your CV, maybe a LinkedIn profile or whatever, and just structure a prompt in the sense like, hey, this is my profile, this is who I am, this is the project description. Now ask me all the questions that you would need to know in order to know if I'm fit for this role or not. And or ask exploratory questions, like make the AI ask you exploratory questions to get a feel if your profile is actually good or not. And so he's gonna maybe ask you like, what have you done in the past? You can answer that. He's gonna ask you like follow-up questions, and that's where I think like using the biggest models, it's a good thing because it's gonna be able to reason a little bit more. And so the follow-up questions that it tends to ask are very good. Now, I would need to think a little bit more about the prompt that you would need to do, but something along those lines where you give your resume or your profile, this job description, and just start asking the AI to ask you questions about it in order for you to prepare, in order for you to get a better feeling of what you're gonna do, and just ask you about your past experiences to see like what matches with you. The reason why I say this is because context is king when working with AI. And so if you can get the most amount of context of your persona and your profile to the AI, it's gonna make the best job at actually helping you prepare for it, as opposed to just copy pasting it, just like, hey, copy paste this, give me interview questions for it. But if you give it your profile, it's gonna be more tailored to you, like specifically.
Right. Definitely. I actually went ahead and pasted it in there, and because ChatGPT keeps kind of a record of all your past chats. I've used it many times to help me prep for things like this. So it already does have kind of a pretty solid background of me and what I've done, and I'm kind of
But
just
also
scrolling through
like
here.
your professional experiences and things like that.
Yeah. Yep.
If it does, then it's great. Like,
Yeah, so I've put things like my resume, of course, cover letters I've written previously in there, um, and
the
whatnot,
thing
and
that you also have to remember is that while a platform like ChatGPT does have memory, it sometimes does not have like a complete picture of you. Like it just
right,
stores certain tips, certain things that it thinks are useful and relevant, but it cannot store everything about your context. And so at some points, it does help to have this very clear, let's say, focused context window of the problem that you're trying to solve, right? So for example, this is one of the tips that I give a lot of people a lot of the time is start a new chat. So a lot of people just have like this one massive chat with everything just thrown into it. But starting a new chat with a fresh set of context around one topic and around your like everything that it knows already about you, but also still just give it again so that it's fresh. And yeah, so that's very important. So if anyone hearing this has like a massive AI chat window with all type of different things thrown in there, like, and you're wondering why it makes horrible mistakes and hallucinations and just gives you horrible answers, well, that's why. There's this thing called context rot, that essentially it's the more you want to give the AI the most amount of context that you can on that it's useful. If you start filling the context window more and more and more with unuseful information, the performance is gonna degrade over time. And so you have to be very, very thoughtful about what context you give. The more context, the better, but until a certain point, right? And so that's one of the most useful and easiest advice that I would give anyone, is just like, don't be afraid to try something new.
Right. Thank you. I believe, John, your mic may have been muted a little while ago. I don't know if you were trying to speak. I also see someone has their hand raised and someone else is typing in the chat.
I was just going to say, Alejandro, I love what you said, because I actually found the same thing when I was working with Claude to make things simpler and to kind of retain that memory and context. I started using projects and bringing in artifacts and data elements. Like when I was, trying to fine tune my business offering, I started bringing in all this information. So I created one project just called marketing. And so I started bringing in all my brand stuff. I brought in, the brand guidelines. I brought in some of the stuff that I had tried to do before, some of the things that I was seeking to do from a marketing perspective, as far as marketing collateral. It's all in the same project. And so it now gives me smarter results when I start chats with it, because it already has all of that information and context to be able to produce a better result that's honestly a lot more refined than what I was getting using some other platforms.
For sure. Projects is one of the easiest things that people can do. Like, and it's there for the grabs, right? So it's not, you don't have to be technical to be able to use it, right? It's super simple. Also, one of the things that you mentioned it, and this is also like super helpful, is creating artifacts. And actually, at some point, you can also think about the AI and the platform itself as you want to feed it memory. So there's some things that you want the AI to remember. And it is just as simple as, I want you to summarize all the learnings that we have had into an artifact, into a markdown document, into something, and just use that markdown document as context, right? And that is essentially what Claude and OpenAI are doing behind the scenes. It's every time you say something to the LLM or to the chatbot, they're gonna think, hey, is this useful information for us to store, yes or no? And if yes, then they're gonna store it into just like a file, essentially. Right? So you can think of it that way. And once you get that mental model, you can also do the same things on your side, right? Like I do that all the time with coding, for example. I'm starting coding, and if there's something that the AI does not do good, where I have to come in and just like correct something, I would just come in and say, and ask him to reflect on what we have learned, and essentially make like a memory note out of it, right? And so it's gonna save that memory note, and it's gonna be able to pack it up later on if something like that comes again. And yeah. So memory is like a super important thing. Artifacts are like a very useful tool.
Okay. Good to know.
All right, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, they're having some technical difficulties on my end. But yeah, in the public chat, weird. Okay, now that I've logged out, I can't pull it in. But Karen Kanak, who is the dean over at Greensboro College, she brought up a good point. I guess you could see the job posting. It said something about our values and culture, make sure that you research those kinds of things. Like, what is Microsoft's values and culture?
Yeah.
Because they may, and that's probably like the research that you were planning on doing anyways, right?
Right. Definitely.
Were you able to share your entire screen so we could actually look at the chat GPT results?
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
I am kind of curious of how can you use AI to prepare for an interview? That's a great conversational topic.
Right. Let me do here.
Also, one thing that I'm just gonna put it out there just now, if, while you're sharing your screen. One thing that I would do also is just use the deep research tools that the AIs have to do some, let's say, deep research questions on like, hey, what are the typical questions that Microsoft would ask in a job interview of this case, right? Because there's a lot of information out there online. And so before AI, you would have to go like Google and go and click all the top 10 links and try to figure out everything yourself and digest all of this information. But you can use AI just to do those research topics on like, hey, find the top relevant questions that they're gonna ask me. So that's one thing that I definitely would do in your situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know.
No,
Definitely.
Yeah, so essentially, the thing that I want to say there is, don't just rely on the base knowledge of ChatGPT, on its
Right.
training data to give you the results, but also use the actual internet to get better results.
Right. Yeah, I do agree with that. Not just using chat as my only source type of thing, but more so just kind of like a tutor, like a guide in some sense. So yeah, if you guys can see my screen, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So kind of just gives a rundown of what, this role is really, what they're really looking for in this role. And it just, all I typed in, my prompt was right here, can use this internship job description in my profile to help me prepare for an interview. So I just copied and pasted it all in there. And this is the chat where I, kind of have my resume and cover letters and whatnot in there. And I think it's interesting. It definitely does take in a lot of what it already knows about me, and kind of just gives me a quick short answers. See right here, it's saying a likely interview question on why I'm interested in this role, and I'll just keep on scrolling down a little bit.
Well, and I'll just add, as you're going through this, what you can do to kind of give yourself a few practice runs is you can have the AI tool actually play the role of the interviewer. You give them the persona, and you can have them ask you questions, and then you could record your responses, and then it can you can play with the tool to sort of refine your pitch, and also get that feedback to be able to understand real time, like what does sort of resonate with the fake interviewer versus what maybe you can improve upon. So there's a lot of different stuff that you can do, to be able to give yourself a few reps before you do the actual interview.
Interesting. I never thought about that actually. That could be very useful.
Yeah.
So, okay.
All right, maybe what we could do is prompt it further. You guys can hear me, right? I'm having issues with Riverside. It's bothering me.
Now it's perfect.
Okay, yeah, because the microphone was like super loud and buzzy. So I hope we didn't have too many viewers drop. But what may be interesting is if we came up with a prompt of like, what are the technical questions they are most likely to ask me, and then what are the behavioral questions. One thing that may be an interesting conversation too is, Jeff, when you're interviewing someone, how do you usually start that interview process?
Well, I mean, the expectations generally vary based upon skill level and sort of background, right? So when I would previously work with interns, and this is, this was one of my favorite questions because I'm a finance professional, right? So the first thing I ask is, what's your proficiency with Excel? And so one of the things that I would get back is, oh, I know Excel so well, like I'm really good at Excel. Okay, great. And then I would ask a following question of, tell me about a situation where you had to use a VLOOKUP or something of that nature, right? That, which actually dates me because now XLOOKUPs are far superior to VLOOKUPs for all my Excel using friends.
They both get the job done.
Yeah, but so I guess my point being is when somebody would come back, well, I know how to sum. and they're telling me they're like an Excel pro. I'm like, all right, maybe not. But where I'm really trying to identify, and honestly, what I loved about the the listing of requirements and things of that nature is very specific. So you can go into that interview very prepared and knowing exactly what they're looking for. And I think that if you get the kind of interviewer that has the expectation that I'm going to ask you questions that are trying to elicit where you have relevant experience and you can tell the story in a very clear, concise, and streamlined way. That's why I recommend, researching the STAR method, because it's exactly that. That's what it does. That's how a lot of big companies actually like to hear information, because it makes it easier for the interviewer to process what you're saying and then associate it with, what it is that they're trying to elicit from the person that they're interviewing.
Yeah.
So
well,
I would also then add, sorry, John.
What I was actually asking was, how do you break the ice? You jumped like right into a technical question. Like you wouldn't ask them that, like, hey, how are you? Who are you?
No, I don't start off with the Excel question. Honestly, I just asked them to tell me a little bit about themselves. I want to know how you present yourself. And one of the things that I honestly look for is, and I've kind of grown in my process of interviewing as I've become more experienced, but not everybody presents well initially, because if you're introverted, you're not going to come out like right out of the gate and be able to like sell yourself, because that's just not who you are. So I may or may not be like most interviewers out there, but I try to identify who the person is sitting across from me so that I can better understand if they are introverted or if they're more extroverted. And that's gonna play a part into how then I proceed with my questions, because I need to get a sense of their personality and who they are as a human, because let's be honest, like if we're interviewing people, we're talking to other humans. We need to know what that person is, and in my head, I'm probably assessing, are they going to be successful in my culture if they are introverted, when I know that my culture doesn't really work well with introverts. It's a real thing. I don't want to say that being introverted is a limiting factor, because I've actually found people that maybe are highly introverted are some of the best analysts out there. They just don't present themselves as well as an extrovert does in an interview.
Okay, Jeff, do you have headphones? I think I'm hearing an echo.
You probably are. Okay, let me switch off and I can get that done for you.
Awesome, thanks. Sorry, it was like I was hearing myself. Okay, there. Now it's gone. Really, what kind of the Parker? You don't have to share the screen anymore. We kind of got on that front. What I was getting at though was, Parker, how do you answer the question, tell me about yourself, or who are you, or before you get into any technical questions, I think that like what we can do is help you develop almost like a personal statement. Because Alejandro, like you'd agree that's one of the most important things, is like answering that question well, so it sets kind of the tone for the rest of the interview. Because you don't want to be on the back foot trying to like recover from like just completely botching that first "who are you" question.
It's kind of like, actually the analogy would be something like with an Instagram post or like a TikTok video or whatever, like the hook, like getting the interviewer's hook, like, oh, I want to know more about this guy. So like, hey, I want this person like to tell me more, or just work with this person a little bit more, right? And so if you can get also like personally the people hooked on your person, and that's the best thing that you can do, right? Because emotions do come up, and I do think that sometimes even if you're not the most skillful and technical person ever, like for most jobs, that's not actually what they're looking for. They're looking for best fit, right?
Right.
And so I've had this before, like where I wanted to do my bachelor thesis at a big company, and I remember when they told me, hey, you got the job, like you can work with us. They told me like, hey, it was between you and someone else. The other guy had like more experience or like deeper technical knowledge on this specific thing that we were working on, but you sounded so enthusiastic about the topic. Like it's like, because I really wanted to know about and work on this topic, and it showed, right? It showed through the interview, and that's what they told me. Like, and that stuck with me, because like that's true. It's sometimes, and for most cases, it's not about how good your CV is and whatever, because like everyone is going to have something good, but like how good can you fit, and how good can you bring yourself into the team? That's going to be a very important thing. Now, if you're trying to apply for, like, I don't know, a deep research job at OpenAI, okay, well that's different. They do need the technical skills, but for the rest, the 99% of all other jobs, it's more about the soft skills, and of course having the hard skills, like having a good foundational hard skills, right? Because like you still not need to know your things, but I do think that presenting yourself is going to be the most important thing.
All right, Parker, you want to go ahead and take a stab at presenting yourself?
Yeah, sure. So we call this a 2-minute drill.
Okay, so you guys already have like, all right.
Yeah. You know, when an employer asks you, tell me about yourself, it's basically you have 2 minutes to break down, you know, about you and what you do, how that is, you know, almost sort of similar to the STAR method. So, you know, for me, for example, I'd be like, hi, my name is Parker Shipe. Currently, I am a junior at High Point University studying business analytics and paired with a minor in data science. So I was born and raised in Maryland, and you know, we like to add a little keynote or something that's like kind of unique to your 2-minute drill, so you're memorable. You know, so I could say anything about Maryland. Like I love crabs in Old Bay. You know, so nothing reminds me more of home than, you know, a good old crab feast. And for me, professionally, I would say, you know, there's a few things that make me unique. First, working as a university ambassador, this has taught me how to communicate effectively and connect with people, as well as leading with confidence. And so it made me into more of like a team-oriented leader, and I've learned to be able to prioritize organization and efficiency through, you know, clear communication within this role. And so that's been a big help to me, as well as serving as the pledge class president for the professional business fraternity Alpha Kappa Psi. Last year, I learned to analyze and solve problems under a lot of pressure with strict deadlines, and leading a diverse team you know, was challenging, but it allowed me to, you know, expand my wings and figure out new routes to go in order to achieve our shared goals. And then, you know, I also most recently working with John, have been able to learn how to leverage AI into my life, to where, you know, it's allowing me to excel my work without doing it for me. And so, you know, this opportunity has been still in the works, obviously, but I'll stop it there. And that was
Alejandro,
that
I
was
saw you raise your
official.
hand.
I could have been a little bit more official, but I wanted to kind of explain it as I went through. So I've kind of been doing, the like 2-minute drill like that for a long time now.
It's a lot of words. I feel like 2 minutes. My take on this, and I don't mean to disagree with what you've been taught, is well, actually, it was making me think of how you prompt with ChatGPT. You essentially gave like a very paragraph upon paragraph prompt to where I like a more conversational tone, where I generally answer, tell me about yourself with 3 sentences. Here's what I'm doing now, here's what I came from, and here's what I want to do in the future. And it's just bop, 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 bop. But it's packed full of emotional bids where, you can talk about AI and as it applies to marketing. So, like, then they can ask about that as opposed to, like, monologuing. Alejandro, I saw you raised your hand on here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I just wanted to share one experience that I had back then when I was applying for a job. You know how you always like having your CV like at the very end, one sentence about your hobbies and stuff like that. And I always thought to myself like, okay, who's gonna go there and read them? But I just kept them anyways, right? And so this also goes back to your point on making something memorable, and also my point about it's not about the deep technical skills, because at one of my latest, like I said, one interview that I had, we started talking about one of my hobbies or one of my interests or one of the things that I noted down as interesting of me. It was like I can build a Rubik's Cube blindfolded, and so yeah, and so I was like, okay, interesting, like hey. And we just talked about like 20 minutes about stuff like random things, not even just like, okay, tell me about whatever this data science pattern or this data science algorithm. It was just like, okay, get the basics straight. But it was like, okay, let's just talk about other things. Like, hey, you say that you can build a Rubik's Cube. How does that work? And stuff like that. And they went on into, and I was like, oh, interesting. I was not prepared for like this. I prepared myself for this deep technical questions. But like, to your point of making something memorable that they remember you, it's actually a good thing, right? So, oh yeah, that guy from Maryland that loves crafts. Okay, I don't know if that's the best thing, but like that's definitely a thing, and so it's good. Like, I like it. I just wanted to share that because I just thought about it in my case, right? And so.
No, this is great advice. I appreciate y'all weighing in. I mean, I don't think
I agree
every
with that,
student
by
gets
the
a
way.
panel discussion. Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I completely agree with that because, let's be honest, most people who are interviewing also want to hire somebody that they like and feel like they're going to get along with. And at the end of the day, you're in an environment working directly with somebody 8, 10, when I was an auditor,
Right.
maybe 14, 16 hours a day. You want somebody that you can get along with, you can joke with, that you feel like you vibe with. So 100%, if you have something interesting about yourself that you can, elaborate further on from like just again, that human element piece, even if you're not feeling comfortable about, talking about yourself, when you talk about something that you know and love, all that evaporates.
True, it just feels natural.
Yeah.
It just kind of rolls off the tongue.
In the business fraternity, that we call them passion pitches, and it's basically just being able to talk about a passion of yours for, like Alejandro was saying, for as long as you can type of thing. And it's very interesting to hear it from an outside perspective from you guys, and that you also agree with that. So that's good to know.
Yeah. All right. So, Parker, you have any other questions you want to ask to prepare for the interview process? I mean, maybe a good question to pivot into would be, Alejandro, Jeff, how do you guys prepare for an interview? Because, Parker, you've got, 16 hours to get this prepped and ready to go? If that?
Yeah, just about. I guess.
So this is perfect timing.
Yeah, it is. It is. Could I just put in really quick there? So I guess for the prep, I feel as if my technical skills John, can we do like a different question?
Sure.
Okay. So I feel as if like what we were just talking about, or like Alejandro touched on, how, you know, sometimes it's not all about technical skills, it's also about you as a person and having a passion and all of this. I feel as if, you know, there probably is other people with more technical skills than I will have in Excel, Power BI, Tableau, whatever it might be. And, you know, I have things that I can talk about with all that. I guess my question is, like, how do I convey to the interviewer that I am super passionate about this role? And, you know, I don't know. For me, it's a little bit more tough doing it over a computer versus in person. So if you don't mind answering that for me.
Sure. I have also like one experience that happened to me, and this was like, I don't know, 10 years ago, 12 years ago maybe, but I do think it's still relevant to your question. It's about showing also curiosity and willingness to learn. It's also important, especially in an intern job, because like when you're getting an intern, you know, like they don't know everything that you need to know, and it's not like a business critical, it's not mission critical job that you're gonna do. It's important, but it's not like the whole company depends on it, right? And so there's not gonna be this expectation that, oh, you need to know your things like to 100%. But what's important, I think, and this happened to me again, like I'm gonna come up with this personal experience, is showing that you want to learn this, right? And so I had an internship where I was applying to a job in Brussels. So it was like a new country, a new language. It was like, hey, I want this job. It was around, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it was, but it was on a topic that I was taking a course on university. And they asked me, because I remember this, like, hey, what do you know about this? Like, what do you know all about like this one specific topic about this course that I was taking? I was like, you know what? Like, I don't know a lot. Like, I'm just taking it. But that's why I want to do this job, because like I'm liking it and I want to learn more, right? And so, of course, you can say like the first thing, like the best answer you could give is like, oh, I know everything, and this is everything that I know, and it's perfect, right? But then again, like this was for me, like it was, first of all, the truth, the real answer. I don't know, I just know very few about these things, but it got me so interested that I want to know more. And so that's where I think that you can convey your willingness to learn and adapt, and just like, yeah, to learn new things. And that's going to be very important for an internship.
Okay.
100% agree. And I would add to that one of the things, even for more experienced hires, I would always seek to find people that had what I'll call intellectual curiosity, always seeking to make themselves better, learn more, you know, the kind of person that likes to take things apart to see how it works. And I think, you know, what I heard in your background, Parker, is that, you know, you are a campus representative, you give tours on the campus, explaining all the virtues of High Point University. Not everybody does that, right? And one of the values that I know of a High Point is the experiential education aspect, right? And so
Yep.
I think that where you can lean into that is, you know, you love the education that you're getting, but you also went to that school because you saw value in learning by doing. And so to Alejandro's point, it's I want to be here to really get the full experience of what it's like to be at Microsoft, and then lean into that hard, right? As I think Karen said in the chat, it's embody our culture and values. Like, if you do the research on the company and you show that you give a shit, that's going to be important. That's going to resonate with the interviewer. That's going to be more relevant than that you are a technical dynamo, because in all honesty, as Alejandro even said, like, you can learn that stuff, right? It's passion, it's who you are as a person, what you bring to the table, why you're there in the first place that's going to resonate with the person that you're talking to.
Okay. Good to know.
It's funny that
Thank
we're
you.
talking about all these human things and we're having a conversation around AI as well.
Yeah.
True. Parker, you feeling? I think you're ready. I think you could just skip right
I know,
to
right?
just getting the job. Have any other questions for us, though?
You know, I don't think so. I think it's really just going to be a lot of preparation. I'm going to just use AI to my advantage and some, people to practice interviewing with. But
Awesome.
I'm definitely going to take a lot of what you guys just said into consideration and prep when I think about it. Obviously, I'll research the company. I already know a lot about it, but can't hurt to do more research. And so, yeah, I think I'm good on
Cool.
this end. Thank you.
So
Well,
so
it
next
is-
month, go ahead.
I just had a quick question because I noticed like the job itself is like essentially project management over construction projects.
Right.
Is this going to be something like with them continuing to build out data centers or things like that? Do you know anything about that? Like that's, if you don't know and they don't tell you, ask those types of questions. Like where's the, explain how you love to bring value, right? Because
Right.
if you can better understand what they're looking for in the person executing this role, and then how you can set up, like, be open to riffing on that when you get the opportunity to ask questions. Because to be, another little thing is like if somebody asks me questions as the interviewer to really like better understand what it is that they're going to be doing when they get the job, that level of confidence actually resonates with me as the interviewer. They're like, oh, like not, you don't want to be arrogant, but at the same time you want to show like significant interest in what you're going to do when you get past, past the interview process and they give you the offer and you accept it, right? You want to start playing as if you already have it, right? So
Right.
my last piece of advice.
Okay. Thank
All
you.
right, cool. So now let's move on to demos. Alejandro, I know that you've got some demos that at least, so you, well, actually explain the concept to me. You created a PowerPoint that is now a website that's interactive that you can put analytics behind. Is that,
Well, that's the idea that I wanna, that's the thing that I wanna, that's the goal, so to say. So I'll just give you guys some context. I'm doing another talk on Friday around AI for content creators, right? And it's around like, it's within this community of people that are essentially not tech savvy, and I'm just gonna explain them a little bit about all my knowledge, or the basic of my knowledge on LLMs and how to use the LLMs in the right way, right? And what I thought is like, okay, well, I'm gonna create a presentation for it, and of course, like one of the things would be like, okay, either I use this like I don't know, PowerPoint or Google Slides, or what I thought about, and the reason why, and there's a reason behind it, is what I'm gonna do, or what I did already, is create a presentation using web technologies, essentially React application or like HTML, like just a web application, and it behaves, it feels like a presentation. I'm just gonna share it because like
yeah, I'd love to see it.
and this is not about the content. It's about the like the technology, or just like the way of working, which I thought it was great. And so, like I said, I'm just gonna scroll through, because it's not, for me, it's not about telling you about the presentation. It's just about showing the type of things that you can do, right? Like how to create this type of things. Like it's super simple to convey a message, and this was all just like me prompting the AI. Of course, I know a lot about web, this type of things, but it's like I wouldn't be able to create it just now, like from scratch. Just okay, I'm just gonna create this, because it would have been okay. Create all the content around this, right? Like all this. Okay, now my internet just broke up, I think. Like the application itself that lives in the web browser.
Uh-oh.
Oh, now I'm back.
Okay, now you're back. Yeah.
Now I'm back. Okay. Yeah. So I think maybe, I don't know. It was maybe me sharing the screen that my internet did not want to keep up with it. I'm not sure.
John, I think you're muted.
Oh, man, this interface has been a rough one. So,
Now I'm
Alejandro,
back.
okay, what I was thinking was go ahead and share it and like click through it because what you designed is so, it feels polished. It feels so smooth. It's got like smooth transitions.
Yeah.
It feels like an interactive website that you were, and you said you did it just in like a few lines of code.
No, like, I mean, I did it in a few prompts. So
A few
essentially,
prompts, yeah.
a few prompts. 'Cause,
That's what I
like,
meant.
it's a lot of code. Like, it's a lot of code. But I'm just going to try to share again. Let's see if my internet.
Let's see if it holds out.
Yeah. Because probably it's the upload speed that is going to be having some problems. But yeah, no. So essentially, it's just a web application with some smooth transitions, and it's using these web technologies that are known in the web space to create like this type of applications, right? And it's just me clicking the next button, just like as I would, and this, like, all of these type of things is essentially the AI, where I told him like, hey, this is the message that I want to convey, and then there's some, let's say, some skills that you can give the AI, like some front-end design skills, like, hey, I want, like, this is looking too generic. Let's make this look more polished. Like, that was like one word that I used, just like some keywords sprinkled in, and to be honest, like all of this, it's not me. Like, I didn't design it. I just gave it like a push in the right direction, and it just kept going. And at some points, like you do have to have a feeling for what's good and what's not. And so I was like, this is not feeling so good. Let's make it different. Like, oh, these things are not aligned. Let's make them, I don't know, work on the layout. Because you do have some feeling. Sometimes you cannot convey it into words, and I couldn't. And it was just me literally saying, I do think we can work on this layout again. How should we present the information so that the viewers get the most information out of this presentation? And then the AI just went on and did all of this.
Wow. Jeff,
Yeah,
you got a
go
question?
ahead.
I do, and it kind of relates to some of my experiences also using Claude, and I love what you put here because I sort of didn't understand the back end of what was happening, but I find, to your point, that if you give your prompt too much information or it's not laid out in a specific format, it gets funky fast.
Yeah.
And so I guess my question is it better to go in, like, what are the key elements that would be great as your initial prompt? Is it to, number one, assign it a role, like tell it who it is? Like, for example, you are a communications expert, you leverage, best practices in communications in order to develop succinct and, well-polished messages. And then the next thing be like, okay, well, here's the actual situation that I'm trying to use you for, or something like that. And then give it like almost like step-by-step instructions to then get it to generate the output that you're looking for. And then from there, iterate based on whatever the output is that it generates initially. Like, I guess that's sort of what I've been doing, but I'm wondering if that's the best way to do it.
So definitely, I didn't do it like that, like exactly like that in this case, because I was using a different approach. But I'm just gonna share something. In a second.
When you're much stronger in coding and all that stuff than I am, I'm much more
Yeah.
a layperson, and so I use
mean,
the chat prompts to do what I do.
Yeah, no, because essentially when I'm developing like a real application, the real application that I essentially have a team of agents, and each agent is specialized in something, right? So I have, for example, I have an ideation agent that has some interviewing frameworks to ask me the right types of questions to get the most information out of me. So if I have an idea of like, hey, I want to implement this in my application, I call this agent, right? And you can think of it just like as a GPT for all intents and purposes, right? It's just like a predefined prompt that has this type of like, has a role, has like a specific goal that it wants to achieve, has some context, has some tools that it can use and other things. I have, for example, another one that's like my planning agent. I have a design agent that has like some specific, let's say, design skills. And essentially, and design skills could be like something that you get from the internet, and there's like a whole repository around skills that you can give to your AI to behave in a certain way. And I'm just gonna share one that I use, because I use Claude a lot. But this is something that you could literally copy paste into whichever AI you're using, because it's all open source. And it's this front-end design skill. And essentially, it's just like, if you just come over here and just copy paste this, then it's gonna behave in a certain way, right? And it's just things like, I don't know, this is good for create, like it doesn't matter what it is. Like I haven't read it through. I just know it works at this point, right? And so, and it's just so simple, so concise that you can just give it to your AI, and it's gonna do its magic. And so you can just search for things like cloud code skills, and then you can find all the different skills that you can use. Like I don't know, there's a couple of them, and in the there's some skills. Sage. Skill SA? No. Skills. There's like this website called skills.sh. You can essentially find a lot of different skills, like web design guidelines, whatever, React or animations, and all this type of, here's the front-end design that I was talking about. Essentially, it's just a repository out of all the different skills that you can have, right? And so here I could even come up and probably find somewhere like presentation. Probably there's gonna be a presentation skill.
So these are just prompts to then put in.
Prompts. Yeah.
This is new information for me, Alejandro. Thank you. Like I haven't thought about finding a repositories of like pre-made prompts. That's awesome.
Yeah, essentially this, like if you're into coding with AI and coding using AI agents, like this is the new standard, if you wish, because you can add these different skills to your agents and to your working environment to make it behave in a certain way, right? And so it can also help it create a certain, or use a certain tool, for example. You can have like a skill that it's gonna explain him how to use, let's say, I don't know, Figma, or how to use whatever, like it doesn't matter. Like there's probably like a tool for everything. There's even like meta skills, like a skill to create a skill and stuff like that, right? And so you can create your own skills. And so so essentially it's just a prompt that you just copy paste. And so if you look for this reusable prompts, and in a way it's like a GPT. In a sense, GPT, what it is just like a reusable prompt that you just use it again and again, right? A little bit more than that, but that's it. And so
I have one question, Alejandro. So this is all open source, right? Like people are just providing their code. Is there, the business, the small business owner in me gets a little bit nervous about just grabbing something off the internet and then pulling it into my personal business environment. Is there any risk that there could be anything embedded in there that, so I guess what are because this sounds awesome and I really want to use it, but I'm also nervous about using it. So how would I be able to just know it's safe.
Yeah, you wouldn't. Like, except you would go through the skills yourself. Like, I mean, you could just, and this is the thing. Like, this is the good thing about open source in this sense, because like, there's definitely a risk about pulling in different prompts from the internet. That's like super dangerous, because like LMs could do a lot of harm with prompt injection. Just giving the right or the wrong prompt to the AI can do a lot of harm. Now, with this thing, like for example, if I just come here to this skill, right? So to this file, you can read it all up. Like, it's just like whatever, like I don't know, 20 lines or 50 lines or whatever it is, and you can just copy paste it into your project. Essentially, this is what using this website skills.sh is gonna do. Now, this repository, it's this specific one, it's maintained by one of the biggest online players. So they're gonna want to have, like, let's say a good curated list. And then you can also look at the installs. Now, if you take a look at this one, and there's a lot of people using it, maybe you can trust it. And it's the same thing as an open source software, whereas you're always going to be vulnerable to some attacks, someone injecting malicious code to some open source project and getting installed in your computer. That's always a possibility, and it has happened a lot of times, right? But this is where also open source shines, because if someone were to inject like a malicious prompt over here, like in one of these repos, then a lot of persons would know very fast, right? And but yeah, so essentially what I would do in your case, like, it's just like find the right skills that you would like to have. And what I do personally is even go more meta, is I tell my AI what my goals are. I point him to the different skills that exist and the different projects that exist. And I create like a meta skill out of all the different things that I like about different skills, because different skills can do different things. And so sometimes you can combine them, you can distill information, like you can distill them, you can filter them, and so you can create your own skill based on other skills, right? And so in that sense, you would have your own skill based on your own needs, that it's written by you, and so you wouldn't have that, that attack vector of someone maliciously injecting someone in that skill. So that's what I would do, and that's what I do actually.
That's awesome, man. So, are these all prompts specifically for agents, or like I'm still wrapping my head around this. Like, I guess it's you could just prompt ChatGPT, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess so. Like, I mean, I use it in my coding agent. Like, I can
Okay.
use like this front end design skill in my coding agent, and I just call it. Like, it's for me, it's just like let me just open some.
Yeah, I would love it if you'd kind of open up the hood so we could see what the engine looks like, so to speak.
So if I'm over here, like I have this AI presentation, like I can come over here and say like front end design, and this is gonna be like great, distinctive, production grade, whatever, and this is gonna be this skill that's over here. So I can just call it like analyze my presentation and tell me what I can do better. And so essentially this is going to be like, this is me using Cloud Code, which is my coding agent, and it's just going to go analyze my code. I cannot show you the code right now, it's open in a different window. Anyways, doesn't matter. It's just going to go analyze all the code using this front-end design skill, which is essentially just going to inject this prompt onto my request, onto my message, right? But you could just like open up ChatGPT, open up this front-end design, just copy paste it, like just copy paste this this file or this one. Just copy paste this file into ChatGPT and tell him to review this whatever web page that you have, paste in the code for that web page, and it's gonna output it a better page. So yeah, so you can just copy paste this, put it into ChatGPT, and it's gonna behave. It's kind of like giving it a role, right?
So again, if we're using the normal GUI that and I've seen other people open up the Claude Code screen, and it freaks me out because it's like automatically I'm feeling like I'm out of my depth. But um, when you're using the normal user interface for Claude, and remember how I was talking about projects before, would you take these skills and sort of bring them into your project and have them as a document that it could leverage, or like how do you
Yeah, yeah.
actually put the wheels
So
together? How do you put the wheels in motion on that?
yeah, yeah. I'm not gonna open my, let's say, my Claude window, because I don't know what information I have over there and whatnot. But what I can tell you is like specifically Claude has also a skills, like you can add skills to your Claude like profile. And so essentially you could add this type of things to your Claude profile, and so it's gonna use them whenever it's appropriate. Like it's gonna know by the description, if I have to create whatever, blah blah blah, then I use this. Like this is more of of how skills are defined, but skills are now like an open, how can I say it? Like it's an open protocol. Like also OpenAI has also skills, because it's just a way to be able to give all AIs access to this different skills essentially.
So it sounds like we're bordering on the conversation around copyright infringement. So essentially, these are non-copyrighted pieces of, I don't know, thought or code or prompt.
Yeah.
Jeff, was that essentially your worry of like, am I going to get a copyright strike, or am I going to get like an NDA or sued?
No, it was more of like the general concern over malicious software,
Oh,
malicious
okay,
code that I, you know, don't, as being a non-expert in code, if I was to bring that in and essentially use that on my computer, could it potentially harmfully
Yeah.
impact my device? Could I be installing a Trojan horse inadvertently? Something that would allow people to
gotcha.
then see things. That's my number one concern, because I've worked at
Okay,
companies where, you know, and if anybody has ever worked at any large company, you get the mandatory, phishing and all that protocol training, right? So it's always front and center for me, because I've been at companies that have been hacked, right? Shut down our business
gotcha.
for 2 weeks as they tried to, we had to call in CrowdStrike to come in and fix it, right? So I'm always worried about that. And as a small business owner, I'm probably not anybody's main target, but hey, if I
Yeah,
accidentally upload something that gets onto my device and they can see my financial, it's just a worry that I have, because I don't have an IT team to fix the
Yeah.
problem if it
right.
happens.
I mean, with this type of things, like the thing is like it depends on your AI system, because like your AI has access to different, like if you're just using the normal chat interface, like it's not gonna, there's nothing gonna happen, because in most cases the AI it's very hard for the AI inside of the chat interface to leak out information. um, Even if like it would be like super hard. I I can think of a couple of ways, but like it's super hard. What I want to
Yeah,
say is like even if you put in like this skill inside of your AI chat window, that does not have access like full calling within your computer. For example, now if you're using Cloud Code, this guy has access to my files of my project. It could have access to my API keys within my project. Now, if you have like a malicious code, it could send, I don't know, an HTTP call somewhere. Like it can expose my API keys somewhere, right? So that's definitely a thing, and that's called like prompt injection. If there's a prompt that gets injected into the actual prompt, then it can do malicious things. Now, I don't think that that's like necessarily that's not going to be a very big attack vector in if you're working on the chat interface of like Claude or OpenAI, because it does not have access to this sensitive information, and it's very hard. It would be very hard for that information to go out. Like you would notice, like you would know. It's
that actually really makes me feel a lot more comfortable. And so I think what I heard you say is essentially if you plug any of these text skills into your a project or something that you're developing through Claude, and you're just kind of using the normal prompt interface, very low risk, which makes me feel a lot better because that's generally the only way that I work. And what I really love about this now is now that I've kind of gotten past the unease of like, could this potentially hurt me or my business? This is going to accelerate a lot of things that I do, because whereas I was trying to like, figure it out on my own and figure out how to do things like this, there's a whole world out there that I didn't even know about that this is super helpful for me to then leverage. And this is super exciting because as I was trying to work through, a problem earlier today where I wanted to get something done, it just became a big rabbit hole of me, generating things and then not liking what I saw and then having to go back. So having all these skills essentially at the ready to plug and play with. And John David, to your point, I wasn't so worried about copyright infringement because I feel like if you're uploading this stuff to this type of repository it's for posterity, it's for the betterment of everyone else. And so I wouldn't think that anybody would come after you for leveraging what they put together.
Right.
Good.
Alejandro, what might be interesting is, are there any skills for accounting and finance, which is the industry or the business vertical that Jeff's
I
in?
have no idea, but this is what came to mind when I was talking about it. Like, there's like this meta skill on how to create skills, right? And so it has all the different things that you have to do and how to create them and stuff like that. And it's just a prompt. Like I said, it's just like text that you can give. Like, and this, something like this, you can have this in your project. And so now every time that there's something where you say like, hey, this is reusable information for the AI that I don't want to repeat over and over again. Like, we found out like this, whatever it was, whatever process, whatever workflow, let's just save it into memory, create it as a skill so that the next agent can use it again, right? And so I'm not sure if there's accounting or finance skills, but you can create your own skills. And specifically, especially if you ask the AI to reflect on itself, like, hey, based on what we have done, let's reflect and build a skill around it, right? And so maybe it's a skill on how to process whatever, like this financial document, or how to think like, I don't know. So it's like, it's a creativity type of like now task, right? And so a lot of people say like, oh, AI is gonna take creativity out of people, but now it's just like, I do see it like the other way, like it's how to get more creative.
It's the exact opposite.
Right.
It's such an interesting sandbox to play in now, having sort of immersed myself in it over the past, I would say month and a half. And yeah, it gets me to be able to produce things that I really have, lacking of a skill set, but it makes it easier to access and then to get proficient with. It's kind of neat. I completely agree with you. It's as a an analytical type left brain person, being able to play around with this and do things that I didn't think I would ever be able to create has been really rewarding.
Yeah, I mean, and also like, 'cause I remember like the way I knew John David was because I took his Power BI course like 5 years ago. Then I saw him in this coffee place in Playa del Carmen. I was like, where do I know this guy from? Like, I was like, dude, I know you. Like, where do you know it? He started talking to me, and I'm like, for sure I've met you somewhere, right? Because like, heard it. And so, but this, like now I'm thinking, for example, just like even as a data visualization and storytelling, like something like this would be super simple to create if you know how to use, for example, just like this different skills that I was showing, a little bit of technical knowledge. Maybe you can create this in all the JavaScript libraries for data visualizations. So what I mean to say is that maybe you don't even need any more, let's say, Power BI to create just like one simple visualization that is just going to be shown in this one report. Maybe it would be better just like, hey, create it with AI and have it be as a presentation or something. I don't know, like, because
Yeah.
you don't need proficiency in these low-level tools. Like, okay, how do I use this JavaScript library to create these awesome visualizations? But it's just like, if you know what you want and you have the data and you can prompt the AI and it has the right skill, and it can create also this type of thing. And then maybe you can share it. Now, it's not going to be like, maybe Microsoft is not going to use it, but if you're like a small business owner and you want to share a presentation with your investors or with some other buyer and whatever, and you don't have the skill to learn Power BI, learn Tableau, or learn whatever, like you can use AI to craft this type of things and use other tools and libraries that you wouldn't have to, or that you wouldn't have done.
Well, Jeff, last time we sat down for coffee, you had mentioned that, no, it was Friday when you came to the AI social meetup at High Point. You were talking about building out a landing page. Like, here it is. You know, like you could totally just build this out so easy. And what was the main? You just wanted someone to indicate that they're interested in financial services and then drop an email or something like that?
So, again, I've been doing a lot of dabbling in just kind of, my brand and how I wanted to put myself out in the world. Because, because I talked to Mark a couple of weeks ago and he's like, man, like you got a website, but it's pretty basic. And so I was like, I kind of want to, and I was like so proud of myself that I even generated one in the first place.
Right.
And so what I did was, and I used to work at a company that actually, as I mentioned before, it's called Huge, and they're known for creating really high-end web builds. And so I know some amazing creatives out there that are just unbelievably good at their craft. And I am nowhere near that level, and I am never going to get there. But what I will say is that I took a lot of learning from, just being in that environment and understanding how they approach their work and do brand storytelling. And so what I did was, and Alejandro, now I'm a lot smarter based on what you told me, but not knowing any better, I essentially went and created, I prompted Claude to create a brand strategy. I generated a form and essentially initiated my own discovery phase, leveraging the AI tool to essentially take the information off of this form, find out all the things that I want my brand to be about, and then so I generated the form, I completed the form for myself and my business. I then took that form, fed it back into the AI tool, and I asked it to create 5 different versions of a website for me, and it did it in like less than 30 minutes. And I then reviewed those and identified the 2 that I liked the most, and then I started playing around with them to tweak it to create essentially what I wanted it to be. And it's still a work in process, but I had no experience in web design. I had no experience in, being a marketer or, telling brand story. But being able to leverage the tools, it gave me those skill sets that I was lacking, and then was able to generate something that I will be proud to put out in front of the world, because it was significantly better than what I was able to generate previously. So, I think that's the real value proposition. Now, I think we touched on this in the very beginning. The problem, though, is like, hey, now people are like, well, shoot, I could do the same. Why do I need you, Jeff, to be my fractional CFO or my fractional controller? I could just leverage an AI skill set and do all that stuff on my own, and I don't need to hire you. And what I get back to, and I think what you were saying earlier was, you can do it, but you'll never be as good as the subject matter expert, the professional that does it and has the actual tools, right? And maybe that'll get you, again, like, to give passable financial information. But if anybody was to actually ask you anything that was related to like hardcore financial concepts or anything like that in person, you can't answer those questions. Just like I can't answer how the code was developed to generate the website.
Yep.
Like all I know is I got an end product. I don't know how the sausage got made. And that's where I think the human element still rings true and is super important despite having all these great tools to use.
Yeah. I mean, I can give the analogy to that with coding. I just lost my train of thought.
You're good. Well, we've been going for an hour and 40 minutes, so
Yeah.
kudos to you, Alejandro, for sticking it out. I want to say thank you. Like this has been. I haven't done kind of like an open, free flowing live stream in a while, but I don't think I told you this. So I started a meetup group here locally in Greensboro, and I'm kind of surprised in that. How big is Pod Carmen? Is it 300,000 people?
Yeah, around that.
So Greensboro is roughly the same size, but it's not like a digital nomad hotspot like Pod Carmen is. But when I was down there, the guy who was running the digital nomad meetup, I was like, that's such a good idea because you just get. You remember that night we went to that rooftop bar and went to that meetup? That was so cool.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuck with me, and I was like. I worked for 9 months corporate, and as I was coming out of that, I was like, I'm going to start the AI meetup group here in Greensboro, which has led to quite a bit of AI consulting income. But it's kind of an extension of what I do in the classroom too, where now we pivoted the minor that I run at Greensboro College in analytics to a minor in AI. And I'm having people from the AI meetup come be guest lecturers, and then we work on like hands-on stuff. So kind of like what we did in the live stream with you with Parker, except if there was like actually it totally worked out because he did prompt engineering on how do I prep for my Microsoft interview. So that's kind of like the model for learning. I don't. That's an interesting question of how should education work in the age of AI, because like right now AI tools can be your tutor. To where I feel like what I'm shifting towards is more so like curating an experience and getting people like Jeff that have that deep knowledge that's specific to them, and people like you, and then just putting them in the room with the students and letting the conversation flow.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, nowadays, like everyone has the different tools at their disposal, but not everyone is able to do it just the same way as everyone has all the knowledge in the world. Like if you want, you can learn everything that there's to learn about quantum physics. There's all the books that you can take like this. Those things are open. There are all the research papers. There's nothing pretty much that's just like super like close for the most part, right? Now, everyone in this world could learn quantum physics. How many people do? It's just a couple of them, right? And so And that's kind of like the analogy is like these tools are there for everyone. Now there's not a lot of people that know how to use them. And that's the thing, like knowledge around AI and LMs is just so unevenly distributed. It's so skewed. And because just like me living in my bubble, like this type of things, like skills is for me like of course, like, but that's like my bread and butter. Like that's what every single time there's something new development coming in, like I'm absorbing everything I can because I use it every day to code my own applications and stuff. But I live in my bubble, and I notice like, hey, there's a lot of people that do need to know like how to use these tools because it's gonna be super good, like super revolutionary, and you don't even need to understand like the maths behind it and how all the linear algebra and all those type of things. It's just about knowing how to use the hammer, right? And where to use the hammer.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do they say? It's like a gold rush, like selling picks and shovels, as opposed to like trying to go. There's multiple ways to like make money off of AI. I'm kind of going more the education route. But I've also got my own little micro startup that I'm working on too.
Essentially, this is one of the things that AI is never gonna like this is where most people, humans, are gonna get a lot of value is around community. I don't think community is like if that's something that you cannot like take out. That cannot be automated out of with AI. Like community still has to be within persons because at the end of the day, we live in an analogous world, right? Until we're hooked them in the matrix, like
Right.
we're still gonna have to consume.
That's gonna happen like what, 20 years?
Yeah, so who knows? But that's the thing. I do think like community education, like or just like sharing. Actually, sharing and community. That's gonna be like one thing that it's super important. So I think you're in the right lane, as in getting people together, getting networks together. Because
Right.
yeah, that's never gonna go away.
Yeah, because it also just feels like a natural build off of what I had already put together. Because the first AI meetup I ever did, there was like 15, 16 people who showed up. That's because I'm on the board at Greensboro College. I'm on the board at High Point University, and I partnered with the Chamber of Commerce here at Greensboro. So like the three of those kind of like organizations are just like vector forces together. It's already like created like a whole scene, and it's interesting because two people have gotten jobs, including one of my students who graduated in May. So I do feel good about it. I feel like it's interesting how easy it was for me to kind of like position myself as like the AI expert in Greensboro. Now I couldn't do that if I were in like LA or New York or Chicago, because those are such huge cities that like there's probably 100 people trying to do that, and it's like how do you, versus like right here in the Triad, like it's so easy. It's interesting how it's working, and it's almost counterintuitive because, yeah, that's kind of where I've landed too, is the way that you future-proof your career or the nature of your work is by building relationships, and it's that social aspect to it, to where the AI. I mean, this is like a side tangent, but it is a real thing that's happening. Is you've got the rise of AI, but you've also got this huge loneliness epidemic of like how many people out there, their only socializations is through these chatbots. It's crazy.
It's gonna be way more, yeah. But I'm just gonna give you because I thought a lot about this, and well, I do think it's like definitely a problem to consider. There's also the other side is how many times have you spoken to someone on the other side of the world, not even seeing their face? Like we spoke a lot. We met once, right? Okay.
Yeah.
We met more than once. But then after that, it was just all communication through WhatsApp, through LinkedIn, through a messaging app. And so we've never actually seen our faces again. Like for all I care, like this could be like an AI generated video, right? Of course. It's
True.
not,
Yeah.
but, like,
And that's super scary because deep fakes are becoming more prevalent, and you're finding out that like it's super scary. That's why I hesitate before putting in like my kids in social media posts now, or sharing broadly information about it just it freaks me out a little bit. And I'm not a Luddite either. Like I am embracing the technology, but there's a lot of bad actors out there that want to use this against you, right? And so I think, as is usual, the technology is outpacing our understanding of it. And certainly from a regulatory standpoint, like there isn't anything yet out there. I mean, they're still even struggling to understand how to regulate crypto. And it's been here for what, over a decade, almost 2 decades. And so the fact of the matter is that if we're waiting for governments to catch up and to, even GDPR is like, what is it really? Like, is it really like super protective of, there's so many questions that I have as far as like the safety and the guardrails around the technology. But hey, it is the Wild West. It is the gold rush. You can try to make some money off of it and do what you got to do, or you can just sort of let it pass you by. But hey, at that point, you're then a relic, and sorry, I'm going off on a tangent myself here, but I saw on CNBC, John David's laughing because he knows I do this. I saw on CNBC this statement that essentially said, if you aren't adopting these tools, the big difference in where people will be in the workforce in the future is how efficient they are based upon their understanding and ability to apply AI tools in their daily life. If you are not adopting right now today, you will get left in the dust. You will become obsolete because you will not be using the tools that everybody needs to use. And the other sort of funny thing that I heard somebody say, which I don't know if it's true, but it kind of reminds me of if you guys watch the show Silicon Valley, where essentially Guilfoyle and I forget the other character's name, but they create their own agents, and then they have them talking to each other, and then they overload the system and it shuts everything down. And I feel like Mike Judge is an amazing satirist, but like I think that's where we're going. It's like, well, I'll get my agent to talk to your agent, and once they get through all the noise of all the useless information that's out there, maybe we'll connect as humans after the fact. But it's because that's what it is. It's proliferation of information that's going on right now, and there's so much garbage out there, and you almost need an AI agent to go out and cull through all that bullshit that's out there to be able to get you the information that you actually need. And so, otherwise you're just sort of running in place.
I'm just gonna make a very quick point around your first point on how important it is to use AI as a tool in this day and age. If not, you're just gonna be left behind. My analogy would be like, if you wouldn't know how to use a computer nowadays, you would be so left behind. And if your business does not have any computer whatsoever, like no access to the internet, no nothing, like you're just like a pen and paper, like I'm sorry, but either you're already left behind. And of course, there's some people
it's limiting. It's significantly limiting. Yeah.
And that's going to be the same thing with AI as a tool in the future. And maybe with that, I'm going to wrap up because now I need to head and get the kids ready for bed. It was amazing. Like, it was 1 hour 52 minutes. Like it just flew out very fast. Nice.
Yeah, well, Alejandro, congratulations. You're the first guest that we've done like an AI live stream through the meetup. I think this went really well. We prepped you a little bit, but honestly, Alejandro, you've been great just off the rip, like coming up with ideas, responses.
It was amazing. I loved hearing your perspective on things, and was happy to find out that we were even aligned on some things without me not knowing any better. It was fantastic.
Gotcha. All right, Alejandro, I'll let you go. Enjoy those kids. Enjoy Playa Carmen. It's been so nice seeing you.
Yeah, hit me up when you're around. If anyone's around at Playa del Carmen, then we'll do some co-working together.
Awesome. All right, Jeff, I appreciate you tuning in too, man. I'll see you sometime probably later this week.
Yeah.
See ya.
Thanks for inviting me.